Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, oh my goodness. I am super excited for who we have today as a guest. Right now, she is in the tech world. Yeah, that's right. She is in the tech world. We've got a huge female superstar that's in the tech world, but she does something specific. She does things around audiovisual. And so today she's going to be explaining to us about the importance of understanding what audiovisual is, because from my understanding, I am clueless, right? From all the things that she was explaining to me, I thought I knew everything about audiovisual. But I found out I only know a tiny amount. And so she's going to be sharing her wisdom, her experience on all things audiovisual and why it's important to understand all the things that are out there, especially as tech is evolving and changing. Okay, and she's going to be explaining that to us. So please welcome Denise to the stage. Denise, I'm super excited to have you here.
Hi, Kay. Thank you. What an introduction. I love that. Thank you so much. You picked me up. That's great.
Oh my goodness. So we were just talking backstage.
We were.
Okay? And seriously, I thought I knew everything needed to know about audiovisual, especially where I come from the events background, right? Like, why wouldn't I know everything if I've been doing that for years? But clearly not, because you just taught me a whole different aspect of audiovisual, and I was like, whoa, people are going to be blown away with all of this stuff, right? So we're going to get into it in a moment. But before we do, I would love for you to share with our audience today a little bit about your background, because I know getting to this point in business didn't just happen. You didn't just wake up and bam, there was a business, right? There was a journey. And so I would love for you to share what that journey looked like for you.
Thanks, Kay. I've been in business now for 16 years, running my own business, my own recruitment business within the niche of audiovisual. And yeah, it's interesting. It was just became the right time where I felt like I wanted to do my own thing. I'd worked for Sanyo Electronics in the audiovisual industry, which had got me a lot of experience and a lot of contacts. And then I went and worked for an audiovisual, very small AV recruitment company and helped to build that up. And you know, when you've got a fire in your belly that you want to do something for yourself, and I felt ready. And so I went out on my own, and it just began when I thought of my company name is when it really started to feel real. I saved up. I made sure I could cover my finances for a number of months so that I could get going. I took some advice from Business Link, as they were called at the time, some free mentoring. And I joined some recruitment support groups and networking groups so that I could then, rub shoulders with other recruiters, get ideas about systems and stuff, and also trained, because I've been a salesperson in audiovisual before, so that was great, but I needed to know how to recruit properly. And that, that's what happened 16 years ago. Wrote a business plan and then followed it.
Okay, so many more questions now, right? So first of all, like, what got you thinking that audiovisual AV was the route you wanted to go down? Like, did you always know this is where you wanted to be?
Not at all. And I just fell into it, which is something that most people in this sector do. Nobody really plans to be in it because, as you said earlier, actually the real definition of audiovisual, a lot of people don't know. So there's not a plan to come into audiovisual. So I just fell into it. A recruiter put me in front of Sanyo, and then I found out what a great industry it was. I didn't get the job that I went for because I wasn't from the industry, and I lost out to someone from the industry. But then Sanyo created a job for me because they liked me and they saw my potential, and so they created a role, and that got me into the sector. And it's a really lovely sector to be in, and I've now been in it. This is my 25th year in audiovisual, so It's kind of like flown by.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know what? It speaks volumes, right? When someone meets you and they want you so bad that even though they don't have a position for you, they're going to create a position for you, right? That speaks so much volume right there as to the person that you are and how much you know, right? Even though you didn't come from that industry, Like there was something that they saw in you and they knew that they had to have you.
I think it might have been when I did a presentation and I told them about me selling my clothes at school when I was younger. And they thought she's actually a real out and out salesperson. I gave them this
Oh,
example of my mum coming into my room one day and saying, "Where have all your clothes gone?" And
no.
I'd been selling them. So I think from then it was kind of, and I told in my presentation to get this job, there was a part about me, and I used that in there, and so I think it got a laugh, and it helped. But we just kind of connected, and I was, you know, really hungry for the opportunity, and I was determined to get the opportunity, and I just did my very best to get it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love the fact that you sold your clothes. Like your mum must have been like going crazy. Like I
She
bought you
wasn't
those clothes
happy.
and you're going to sell them?
She wasn't happy about it.
Oh my goodness. Did she buy you any more clothes after
I
that?
can't remember what happened there, but she didn't kick me out. I was too young, so she had
Oh.
to, she had to keep me there. But no, it was they all laugh about it. My family. It was just a classic moment where they said we knew you'd be in sales,
That
from
is
that. So
cool.
I think
Yeah.
that just that's the kind of role I wanted to do, and I knew that from quite an early age that I liked talking to people. I liked selling. I liked engaging. I loved the idea that I could travel around, and um, and so that got me. But I didn't know the industry, and it just so happened that I ended up in audiovisual, and then I've never left. There's lots of different avenues you can pursue, and the people are so lovely, and I've made friends for life, wonderful colleagues, just genuinely a great industry. And I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun with it, as well as working, very hard, and, being really focused on it, but I've had some great times too. So, it's a great
Yeah.
industry.
Oh wow. Okay, so we will be talking more about audiovisual, but I also know, right? It didn't come easy. There was so much adversity thrown at you in your personal life, but you still kept on going,
Yeah.
right? And you are a single mum. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what was going on there because when things happen with families and you disagree, right, that does take a lot of effect on other aspects of your life as well, right? And so tell me what happened there and how you really found the motivation to keep moving forward at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's never easy in life or in business, and stuff happens and it challenges you. And personally, there's been a number of things, but some key events are, when I separated from my husband when I was pregnant with with our son, and actually, at that point, I had somebody working with me who who I thought would kind of hold the fort while I was, taking a bit of time off with my
Mhm.
baby. And, he decided to leave. So I was left, holding the baby of my baby and my business baby. So that, I didn't really have a maternity leave as such. I fitted in time in between putting my little boy in front of the tumble dryer to get him to go to sleep in his crib. And then I'd do a few hours work here and there. And I was still doing business because, I needed to do business. And, I suppose it just came second nature because it's a needs must, isn't it?
Right.
Situation that you've got to do that. So it was very hard emotionally, but I think you kind of, I don't know, I kick into quite an adrenaline driven like response, I think, of just, as I say, when you've got the situation, you can't crumble under it. I think it was harder. One of my harder moments was when I was pregnant, I actually suffered some depression.
Right.
Um, and that was then difficult to just get going. It's a weird thing to have when you're actually pregnant. You think that might come afterwards, but actually,
Right.
I think the change in hormones and everything sent me off into quite a spin sometimes. And I just had to be very, very kind to myself some days. And if I couldn't, you know, it's very hard when you feel like that, it's very hard to do the hard stuff. So what I would choose to do if I wasn't feeling, like approaching difficult conversations or hard things that maybe put me out of my comfort zone, I would, just try and keep going bit by bit and do some of the more straightforward things, like maybe have an admin day, and
Okay.
leave some of the tough bits to when I felt a bit better. And fortunately, it all passed afterwards. But,
Hmm.
it was a roller coaster time when you have then a responsibility for a business. But it's always been a bit of my sanctuary in a way, my business. It's been a
Okay.
constant. And, it's given me so many life options and choices. Being a parent, actually, you can then, it was hard work. It's not like you're finishing early all the time, but I can be flexible. I can go
Yeah.
and see Edward doing a sports day, and then I can come back and I can work on a little bit later or something. So yeah, there's definitely been adversity. Another time was when I thought the business was going under, in fact, twice when it became very challenging, which was once during 2008 when we had the big recession.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
I was worried then. And we had no vacancies in the industry. Literally, I'd go to a trade show, the biggest trade show that we have, and no one was hiring. And
Wow.
it was a really scary time. But I just, you know, kept my customers close, kept my candidates close, and found the odd opportunity that then just carried it through. And then, of course, during the pandemic, we literally crossed our prospect board out with a big red pen, and we had, hundreds of thousands of pounds of prospects, loads of companies we were working with and candidates, and it all just completely fell by.
Wow.
So, 4 months, months and months,
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 months. And, I was worried then too. When things started to pick up, I was also homeschooling. So I
Oh,
was,
that's right.
we were homeschooling, and
Yeah.
and actually we were online homeschooling, which might sound easy, but my son was only like 6 or 7. So we needed to help support that. And I would get just a few half an hour gaps here and there to keep on top of the work. So, it was crazy, crazy busy times. But during the pandemic, during that recovery period, I actually had one of my best business months ever, whilst homeschooling.
Wow.
And actually, during that time, I tried to just meditate and do some stuff that kind of just
Ah,
calmed. I did
ah.
some meditating and some yoga, things that I normally find a bit too quiet for me. I want to be moving around a bit more and a bit more
Mm.
hectic, but it just helped to get myself in the right mental place to just tackle the level of busyness and the pressures, and just keep on top of it all and be nice still without,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned meditation because I was going to ask you, like, how did you manage to balance all this stuff? Like, what did you have to do for yourself, right, to make sure that you were able to do everything else, right? So you did meditation. Did you have like a daily routine? Like first thing in the morning, you did certain things to make sure that you fed whatever you needed for your body so you can then be out there doing everything else.
yeah. I mean, I think a real saving grace, and it still is having a dog. Um,
Really?
Yeah, well, because
Oh,
one of the first things I will do in a day now in the pandemic, anytime, and actually I've had a dog. This is my second dog during this sort of 16-year period.
wow.
Is walk and get outside. And I don't think for me there's any better reset than being outside walking by the river, in the woods, somewhere outside, whether I'm listening to a motivational podcast or a book on Audible, or in fact nothing, and just being. I
Mm.
honestly find that is complete de-stressor and head clearer for me, or a run, or some kind of physical activity just gets the endorphins going and is very head clearing. So I think, you know, drinking water, eating well, all those things. But for me, just being outside, and
Mm.
especially, in the pandemic, you needed to be outside because
Yes.
you could be inside a lot. Um, but generally speaking, that's what I do. One of my first things I do in the day is go out with the dog, and I love it.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. And I saw a picture of your dog on social media and he's adorable. He is
He's quite
absolutely
cute. He's
adorable.
quite cute. Yeah, he is a lovely Labrador called Simba. He is a sweet
Yeah.
boy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Okay, so guys, we need to go get a pet dog. right? To make sure that we're taking our walks and, you know, we're actually doing it every single day, right? So that's it. That will kind of help you with all of that stuff. Oh my goodness, I love it. And so you've already mentioned to me twice in business, you've had to pivot, basically, right? And so you are very good, I guess, at having to change directions in your business, right, to keep going. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now, right? You've had to do that. You've done it successfully, whether you wanted to or not. It was just a climate of what we were dealing with at that time, right? And so when you realize both of those occasions that you had to do something different, right? What was going through your mind? Was it something like, oh my goodness, like, here we go again, I've got to change everything that I knew that I'm used to? Or was it the case of, do you know what, let's just get on with it?
Yeah, the last time it happened, I did think, am I going to actually have to get a job? And that was a
Really?
bit of a that was the pandemic. I really, really questioned whether there was going to be a recovery and how soon it was going to come, and would I need to go and get a job? But weirdly, almost as soon as I'd had that thought, you know, things started to change. And I think perhaps I had to reach that rock bottom thinking in order
Wow.
to come back up. And I think it's just about looking at, yeah, how you can get back. You need a bit of, you need a bit of wind in the right direction. Obviously, when something like that happens, it's a bit out of my singular control. But, we've just, what I did through the pandemic was keep in touch, even though no one was hiring, there wasn't a reason to talk to our clients or our candidates. We just kept in touch. And therefore, and we did lots of video interviews as well. So we would put out videos on social media. I might be walking the dog and I would have my phone and put a video out just to check in with people and just say, look, we're still here. There's not a lot happening at the moment, but, put my face out there, which, was hard during those times as well. And, just keep connected. So I think when the recovery then started to happen, we were still there and we were still familiar to people. And, we'd been out on social media still talking and still present. And it was then easy to kind of get back into the momentum again. So, but yeah, I think you just have to not give up, really.
Right.
If there's a glimmer of hope, find the way around things. And as you say, maybe change some stuff because something's, the world has changed. So what do
Right.
you need to change to go with that?
Wow. Okay. I love this. And the fact that you have your son Edward, right? And he's
Fantastic. Yeah.
seen the kind of evolution you've had,
Yeah.
right? As a little kid. And is that, how old is he now?
So he's 9.
He's 9 years old. Okay. So the
Yeah.
last 9 years he's seen mum do all of this,
Yeah.
right? Has he ever come up to you and says, Mum, why are you doing this? Or, do you know what? This is really cool. I want to start my own business. Has he started asking any of those types of questions?
He sometimes says he'll come and help and he'll get on the phones and he'll help me out if I'm busy, and he offers to help if things are really busy and I have to say, look, I'm really busy.
Wow.
I've got to get back on a call or whatever, and he'll be like, I can help. He's the truth is I don't know whether he will want to come and work in recruitment if I'm doing it still by the time he comes into
Right.
work. But no, he's very, I don't know, he's supportive, he gets it, and doesn't know any different, but he
Yeah.
knows that it affords us some time, some flexibility, and the ability to do stuff. He's got a busy little life, so he does loads of, he'd do every sport going if he had half a chance.
Wow.
The main ones are rugby, football, and cricket. So it's very busy running him around and doing
Yeah.
all of that at weekends and in the week. So he knows, that I'm managing my time and that every little bit counts so that we can do all the things. And that's just kind of how it works. But, he has a good life and he's able to do all the sports and all the things he wants to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I have seen on social media, right, that he is being at football matches. He loves football on there,
Yeah.
from what I've seen.
Rugby is his
Is
favorite.
it?
He
Wow.
loves sport. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so I'm not a mother, right? And I'm not going to pretend I know what it's like to have to bring up a child, right? And to bring up the other child, your business.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to explain to me, give me some tips, right? To prepare me for the future, right? As to how do you find balance with bringing up your son and bringing up a business? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I was an older mother. So when I had Edward, I was 39. And so I had done a lot of stuff
I gotta say,
on my
right, you say
own.
that you're an older mother, right, but you don't look very old. I gotta put it out there, right? Like you
Oh,
don't,
thank you,
right?
Kay.
So
Thank you.
whatever you've
It's my
done,
new light.
so whatever you've done, whatever the secret is,
Oh,
we all need to know about that too.
oh, bless you, bless you. It's it was I'm not going to lie, it was a shock because 39, I had just had all the freedoms to do all the things, and I
Right,
just traveled loads and went to the opening of an envelope if it was to do with my business, which was, it meant like I built on my business really nicely because I went to all the networking events, traveled all the places and did all the things and knew all the people. And then, of course, when Edward arrived, it just changed so much because my wings were clipped. So I am lucky. I've got very supportive parents, so they have mucked in, but I just had to make changes in
mm,
my expectations and the reality. And the first one was you just got to get some really good childcare, and it just depends what level of childcare you want as to what you want to do and what the demands of your job are. I went gradually into it. Edward was in childcare for a little bit, just a few hours, a few times a week from when he was about 5 months. Some
right,
people don't do childcare, may do sooner or may do later. It's very individual. And I think you just look at what's right for you and for your child, if you're okay with doing that. And so I found this lovely place. So I got a bit of chance to work, and he went there. And then at a year, he went into a nursery. He loved it, and he was a sociable child. But I'm
yeah,
not saying that's right for everybody. And it meant that then I could work. The big shock comes when they go to school because of the change in the hours.
right,
And he went to preschool first, which means, rather than having up until 5 or 6 o'clock, actually you're picking up at 3 o'clock, and
yeah,
that means then you're wrapping up what you're doing with work at 2:30 or 2:15, and that's not that feels like half a day to me.
yeah,
So but again, with a business, I think these days people work flexibly. You're a grown up and you might get online early, finish a bit later, you run out and do the school run, and you just, figure out a routine. I would never have wanted a routine before I had a child, and now routine, okay, is everything. So yeah,
wow.
you just have a plan. You know what you're doing each day, you know what your things are, and you know what your routine is, and then you kind of like stick to that. But I'm not going to lie, it's still tricky being a single parent. If there's a networking event on, I can't always attend it. But
Right,
I pick my battles. Arguably, probably I went to too many before that I didn't need to go to. So now you just become a bit more selective and make sure the things that you go to really count.
right. Oh,
So it's possible, and you can do so much remotely, can't you now as well?
yes, you
Which,
can.
is much more ideal as a mother and being at home.
Definitely. Oh my goodness.
Hope that
Okay.
helps. You can always chat
Yes.
to me when the situation rises. So
Yeah, oh, definitely. I'm
good
going to be
advice.
picking your brains for sure. Okay, so one more thing that I really want to kind of mention here, right? Because I feel like this is a bit of an elephant in the room, and people are probably thinking of it. Um, you mentioned childcare.
Yeah.
A lot of people say it's either or because childcare is almost like a full-time salary, right? And it's almost like you're fighting this battle of putting your child in childcare, needing to earn the money, but can't earn the money because you need the child to be in childcare to have that time to do it. So, what did that look like for you, just to kind of clear that up for everyone?
Yeah, I suppose in recruitment, it's quite a fortunate role in that you can make a reasonable amount of money out of placing people in jobs. So it's an economies of scale kind of, I knew what I needed to do, the amount of hours I needed to do it. And I just made sure I just was really so focused in the time I got to work. If I had 3 hours in a day to start with, then I would absolutely max that 3 hours out. And it's surprising what you can achieve when you have got to just put it into a box of time.
Right.
So I think that, yeah, it's making that plan, but you're right, it's not cheap.
Mm,
The way I always viewed it was like paying my rent or paying my mortgage, you know, the money, I could see the money just goes out and
right.
it needed to be paid. I could see the benefit to Edward as well of, being socialized, getting good attention, all the work he'd come back with, all the cute little things he's made, and all the
Mm,
little progress updates. And I was really comfortable with that. And I felt it would do him good as a person as much as it did me good to be working. So I just kind of, just made the most of my time to make sure I made the money to cover the childcare. And as I say, I think initially I just eased in, you can get flexibility with different hours. And initially I couldn't necessarily afford the full childcare, nor did I want it. So I
mm.
just did, shorter time frames and maxed out my work during those times. And as my money started to mount up again, and my business mounted up again, then I could, move on to another level of childcare. And he was also ready for that too, because he's older.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Oh my goodness. Right. You're just like you're superwoman. That's all I can say. You're superwoman.
I think you do need, focus. It would have been impossible to
Mm.
really, I would have been no good to anybody if he was here and I was trying to work. He
Yeah.
wouldn't have got all of me and nor would my work. So I think I say, even if you can just get 2 or 3 hours, you've just got pure focus and no distractions, and you can get just so much more done. So I
Yeah.
think
It
that's the
makes
way to
sense.
do it,
Absolutely. It makes
personally.
sense. Now, I would like to dig a little bit deeper as to what it is that you do and how you help people, right? So you are in the audiovisual industry. And so there's so many different aspects to audiovisual. As I was saying earlier, I thought I knew it all, but clearly I don't, right? So would you want to explain to everybody what you do when it comes to the audiovisual sector?
So we are a specialist recruiter and we help people in all different types of job roles within audiovisual. Where we're particularly strong is in sales and managerial level positions, but essentially we cover everything from entry level positions for AV engineers through to director level jobs. The sector is broad, as we were talking about earlier. It's a niche market, so it's not as big as IT, but it is gradually becoming much more closely aligned and converging with IT. And essentially, audiovisual, the description is anything with an audio and a video element, but that
Right,
can cover, the LED screens at Piccadilly Circus, through remote meetings like we're doing now,
right.
through to events, exhibitions, festivals, pro audio broadcast. There's lots of different elements within that terminology. And I think this is the issue, is that a lot of people don't really know what audiovisual is, yet it is
Mm,
all around us, like
yeah.
absolutely all around us, and we're all interacting with it several times a day at least. And it's changing the way we live our lives, the way we experience things. It's massive in terms of, like, you look around yourself when you're out shopping, you're out eating, you go to the airport, or any other type of travel, and audiovisual's revolutionizing that. And even emergency services, control rooms and command
Mm,
and control rooms. It's really helping people, whether it be from a social perspective or from, critical situations.
right.
It's everywhere.
It
So
is. It is. And
lots of people
so
still don't know what it is. So it's bizarre in a way, isn't it?
it
But
is because I think we have this idea in our head that when you go to events and the screens up there and the speaker, that's audio visual,
yeah,
right? I think,
it's one element of
Mhm.
audiovisual, absolutely is, Kay. Yeah.
Right? And I think that's it. And then we shut up from there. We don't see anything else apart from we go to events, right? And we don't realize that everything else, there's all this audio visual all around us because we just don't think of it like that, right? We're doing audio visual right now, but wouldn't have thought about it. I'm just like, no, I'm just on Zoom,
Yeah.
you know? And so like putting that into perspective, it's I guess, eye-opening that is actually everywhere and we don't even realize it. And so I know, Denise, you specialize in recruitment in this area,
Yeah.
right? And I know there's a lot of people that do recruit agencies and AV companies and all those kinds of things. And I think people don't realize, first of all, what questions to ask to know if they are the right agency to go with, or what they need to know about AV to ensure that what they're looking for, what result they want, is actually going to happen. And so when someone is coming to you, right, and says, for example, okay, I'm looking for someone in AV to do X, Y, and Z, what are some of the processes that you actually go through with them to understand what it is they're looking for so you can have the right person for them?
I mean, one of the big things that we try and ascertain, both with clients and with candidates, is really getting a feel for the company and the culture. So obviously we will go through all of the requirements of the job role, and we find that clients send us job specs, but they're very, you don't really get to the complete nitty-gritty of what a company is really looking for, particularly in the person. So we always want to talk to clients and have a meeting or have a Zoom and talk to them about what this job spec really means. What qualities are they looking for in somebody? What cultural fit are they looking for? What is the reason for the vacancy, and what hasn't worked with other interviews or other employees, and who's the best example of an employee that could replicate this role, and just really asking as many questions as possible to fully understand. And because it's not purely about a paper fit, someone can look wonderful on paper, but then they don't connect well with the company or the interviewer. So it's just asking plenty of questions to really fully understand what is required. And of course there are soft skills, hard skills that we need to know all about, and then we're really literally looking at matching those up by, yes, first of all looking at someone's CV or application, but by then talking to them about the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I can imagine, right, because people don't really know much about this industry, right, as much as you do. What I guess are some of the common pitfalls that you see again and again in your industry?
In terms of hiring people,
Yeah.
Katie, I think again it probably comes down to questions, because people have a tendency to want to hire in their own image. So they're like, well, actually, I could really just do with a version of me, someone a bit like me, or like how I used to be 20 years ago, or something like that. You want to hire in your own image. So that's one thing that can happen. Another thing that can happen is that you're selling the job role to the candidate, but you're not asking them all the questions. Equally, I say to a candidate, interviews, it's a two-way thing. It's not just about the client interviewing you. Ask them lots of questions. It's a two-way interview. Everybody has to be happy. But from a client perspective, sometimes there's a danger of, and this is the job role, and this is what you'll be doing, and maybe this is, not so good, to be aware of that. And just telling them everything about the opportunity, but not asking the right questions, not asking for examples about how they might have done something within their job role. Rather than someone saying, I'm a brilliant account manager. Well, what makes you a brilliant account manager? Tell me about a time when you satisfied a customer's requirements, or you went over and above. It's taking the time to ask proper questions and not just kind of gloss over answers or take surface level answers. There's lots of different questioning styles, and everybody's got their unique way, but yes, that can be a common problem, is just selling the dream but not
Yeah.
really asking the questions.
Interesting. It's funny because the questions that you just use as an example, I feel like they're normal, like interview questions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I thought everybody would know to answer those particular questions, but clearly that's not a common thing in the industry.
Well, I don't think it's particular to AV. It's not. It's just hiring generally, where and again, it depends on the person, it depends on the company, but I think it's really important to have a structured interview process now. whereby you've got a structured set of questions and a structured set of goals that you're looking for from the candidate, and that you replicate that process across every candidate that you interview to keep it consistent and to eliminate any
Yeah.
bias and to
Yeah.
make sure that everybody is assessed equally. That's, I think, a very important thing to do. I'm just picking a couple of examples which I've seen over the years of like common hiring mistakes. I
Right.
don't think they're necessarily AV specific.
Mm.
It can just be getting too enthusiastic about selling the role and not
Right.
focusing on the questions to the candidate.
Oh my goodness. And so the way I see you is you're just like the matchmaker of AV, the AV industry, right? Like
Yeah.
you put the right people together, right? That's what you're doing, which is really cool because you got to have really good people skills to be able to identify, like work with different personalities, understand what personality will work with this particular company or the manager or whatever it is, right? And so understanding all of those aspects, and I guess there's a lot of reading between the lines, right? When it comes to doing all of that. So how do you, or I guess, how did you develop those skills and understanding who to match people up with and what will work and what won't work? Oh my goodness, my words.
There is a process, and there is gut feel, and it's good to be able to
Mm.
trust your intuition on people. Jenny and I will talk about this a lot. I haven't got a good feeling about this, and I always say to Jenny, trust your instincts, because your instincts are really good. So sometimes you just get a feeling from something, but generally we follow a process. So we ask a certain set of questions to the clients, to the candidates, and we're asking questions about, for example, have they thought about leaving their job? What do they think their employer is going to say if they leave their job? And these are very forward questions that you might just not bother asking. You could just not bother asking, but actually, has the candidate talked to their boss about what they're not happy with, or maybe they want a pay rise? Have they talked to the company about having a pay rise? There's lots of work you can do to anticipate what is going to happen further down the line. Does their employer let people go happily when they hand the notice in and say, well done, wish you well? Or do they counter offer and try and keep hold of their good talent? And you're anticipating problems, and you just have to be really thorough.
Yeah.
You know, Obviously things can still surprise you, because we're talking about people here who,
Yes.
can do things that surprise you. Now and again, you'll have somebody says, well, I've taken another job, and it's come out of the blue and they weren't transparent with you. And, it surprises everybody. But
Yeah.
more of, generally, if you're asking all the right questions and you have to just be really thorough and not cut any corners, then you
Mm.
should have all the information, and you've asked about the hypothetical situations. So you're anticipating problems. I mean, for example, if somebody is purely moving for their motivation is money, that's something you've got to be quite, careful around, because if their only motivation to move is money, if they get offered more money by their current employer, would they stay? So it's just
Yeah.
anticipating these types of questions, and knowing we have to know our clients, like what they're like, what kind of people they want to
Mm.
hire, what their business is like. Different cultures in the audiovisual industry. There are Chinese companies, Korean companies, American companies, UK companies. You've got huge varieties in cultures, and what works for one person may not work for another. And it's just taking all of that into consideration as well, rather than just trying to put people into jobs. It's like, what is the right place for, what is the right fit, not bums on seats.
Yeah, no, I love that you like I feel like it's a really like family kind of orientated culture that you've created, right? In putting people together and the right people together and asking the right questions. It feels like you're going over and beyond to making sure that all parties are happy, which I absolutely love. Because again, at the same time, just like you're kind of asking them the questions of, is it all about the money? All the things that you're saying to me is not all about the money for you either, right?
You have to care about what you're
Yeah.
doing. I think you do. I think it's super transparent if you're just look, I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously we have a business to run and we wouldn't be running if we weren't placing people. But I think people know if you don't care. Also,
Yeah.
if you don't care, I don't think it would be a very good job to do at all. I think it's not easy recruitment. It can be super. I know a colleague of mine in another recruitment business, she calls it champagne and razor blades, because it can be,
Oh,
when it's up, and when it's tough, like a pandemic situation, it's tough. But
yeah.
it's I think you genuinely have to love what you do, and if you do it properly, you stand out from others, because there's so many different levels of recruiters in the industry, and you get noticed if you look after people and you're kind and responsive. And it's massive. Looking for a new job, it's like a relationship, isn't it? Having a
Yeah.
job, you spend most of your time there. The right job can make you feel $1 million. The wrong job can make you lose your confidence and feel dreadful. So it's really important to do this. And we talk to people who've been made redundant. They've walked into work, they weren't expecting it, they've lost their jobs. It's really sensitive. And so, you need to try and put yourself in people's shoes and really feel that, and also aim to get them the best fit, because we don't want them to be leaving in, a few months. We want them to be there for years. Genuinely, we want to do that. That is the aim. So
Yeah, definitely. I love everything that you're saying, and I feel like there's so much more, I guess, education needed, regards to AV and what the recruitment side of things looks like. And so a little birdie told me that you have a little gift for everybody.
yeah, I've written a book just about this, and it's a book, and it's called Your Dream Job in Audiovisual. Don't just fall into it. As I mentioned, most of us, in fact, everyone I know in the industry, has fallen into audiovisual without a plan. We just happened to end up here. So the book talks about all things audiovisual, to explain how the industry is set up, the opportunities, the industry associations, and also it goes through a recruitment process of how to get your dream job. So you've got things like mindset, interviews, CV preparation, all of the process, as well as this guide on the audiovisual industry and the technologies and everything else. So and I'm giving a free digital copy away.
Oh my goodness, that is awesome. Guys, all the links, right, will be put in the show notes. So make sure you go and grab your copy of this awesome book, because it's gonna put everything in place, right? It's gonna change your perspective, and it's also gonna give you a different kind of idea on how to go about recruiting, right, in the AV industry. Because I know a lot of you are doing events, or you're starting to do events, and you're doing loads of other things regards to AV, and we think we know it all, but that's not the case, right? And so go ahead and grab this book, because it's going to blow your mind. And Denise, if there are anyone out there that want to connect with you on social media, can they go ahead and do that?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Insta. I'd say LinkedIn is my most, regular form. But yeah, LinkedIn, Insta, Facebook, absolutely. Please do connect.
Oh, fantastic, guys. Go and do it. Go and connect with her. Go and find out what else she's doing, how she can help you, and maybe even book in a call with her, right? If you're really serious about AV and you're looking to kind of expand in that section, you're looking for somebody to help you with your events, and you want the right person, go and connect with Denise, because she will match you up with the perfect person that you'll be able to work with and be able to get results. Denise, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you so much, Kay.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.